Students, this is our 9th lecture in series of lectures on research methods, and this is devoted to ethics. One line which will appear in one of the slides later, I begin with that line, why ethics? Because the conduct of research cannot be completely left to the discretion of individual researchers. Research is not a private affair, and researchers are bound by the laws, standards, norms, morality, ethics of the academic community. Research institutions regulating ethical review. You see, researcher is not the only person who has stake in research. Research institutions, regulating ethical review boards, committees, research institutions, civil society actors, donors and sponsors, all of them have a stake in research. Age at T called 076 debate between those interested in finding a cheaper though less effective drug for vertical transmission of HIV and those supporting an effective drug has resulted in concern for ethics in medical research. What will be your answer if somebody asks you whether you will support a cheaper but less effective drug or a costly but effective drug, especially in the context of countries like India, where majority of people are poor or just lower or middle class. The ethical issues arise from Nuremberg Code. In the post World War II period, after the experience of Nazi experiments in Germany, concentration camps, there was the first instance of formulation of ethical principles for research. Now, this aims to secure informed and consented participation of volunteers in research. You cannot just catch hold of anyone and start collecting data, all kinds of data, maybe biological, genetic, maybe social, maybe economic, about the person or from the person. The Declaration of Helsinki 1964 by World Medical Association, WHO and international organizations of medical sciences strengthen the case for ethics further. So, good research is good not only because it produces new findings and interesting findings or contributes to knowledge, it is also good, it has to be good from social point of view also. Research is a social activity carried out for the benefit of society. It should be undertaken with the motive of maximization of public interest and social justice. This is however a relatively new issue in social sciences. Not only that the ethical issues were not raised earlier, say 50 years ago in social sciences in India, but even in the western countries these concerns developed very recently. Some of the studies which have given rise to ethical concerns are Milgram experiment, Humphrey's tea room trade and Zimbardo's GARD study. They date 1961, 1970 and 1971. They are debated whether they violated ethical norms. You can know about these studies more from psychology books or from internet material also. In Milgram experiment and in Zimbardo GARD study, some kind of punishment was involved. And in Zimbardo Guard studies, some people behaved like the officers in jail and some like prisoners, and they wanted to see what is the effect of roles on people's behavior. In Milgram experiment, likewise, the participants were expected to give shock for wrong answers to others. They wanted to see whether, as in concentration camps, people follow the rules kind of. And in tea room trade, it was a study done on homosexuality, and the researcher, without disclosing his motive of research, participated in the sense that he observed the activities of homosexuality in washrooms at public places. Now, whether he had the right, the ethical issue is whether somebody has the right to see the private activities of others or take addresses of these people and contact them again. So, these studies raise some ethical concerns. The ethics was never a part of research methodology course or mentoring. If you look at books, textbooks published from anywhere 40-50 years ago, there was no special chapter on ethics. Neither sponsors of research nor publishers ever developed ethical rules. Many professional associations and corporates have still not developed ethical guidelines. I wanted to know whether Indian Council of Social Science Research, an important body of government which provides funds for research and engages in research related activities, planning, publication of books, and they have guidelines for sociological research, and I did not find. Indian Sociological Society is in the process of forming ethical guidelines for researchers. However, ethical clearance is increasingly becoming a condition for research, including MPhil and PhD works, research and consultancy. All kinds of researches are included in this. Now, if you compare the situation 50 years ago with the situation prevailing now, I call then and now, then I was just wondering why there were no ethical concerns at that time. Perhaps because the researchers followed the paradigm of ontological realism, and intellectuals were supposed to be discovering new and immanent laws, and they required complete freedom to do so, because they were contributing to knowledge, and knowledge was seen as accumulative. This was under the influence of ideas of positivism, objectivism and progress. So, if knowledge is required for understanding reality, discovering laws of human behavior in objective manner according to rules of the scientific community, and is required for the progress or evolution of mankind, why should you impose ethics? There was a match therefore between intellectual self understanding and state's view of gardening society, a term I have taken from postmodern literature. Some degree of deviance to be of interest to research. Our Emile Durkheim also said that in general some small amount of deviance, say 5-10% deviance in society is functional for the larger society. So, if some researchers sometime deviated from the norms of the scientific community, maybe it is good, maybe it is good for freedom, for intellectual growth, for evolution, for progress of society. And conflicts confined to members of the same generation. Conflicts between academicians usually occurred between the members of the same generation. Seniors took care of their own students, including placement, and placement at that time was not a big problem. You know, when I was doing PhD, we were almost sure of getting a decent job in some good institution or university. Things were simple. So, our supervisors and our seniors protected us, helped us in finding a good placement, and ethical concerns were not raised in that context. But now, professional bodies, institutions, universities to follow rules, red book, are concerned about ethical issues. There are state regulations about research. National Health Service, for example, will expect you to follow certain guidelines and rules strictly if you are working in the field of health in United Kingdom. There are procedures to form ethical committees and provide clearance. They are also governed by ethics. How to form ethical committees? What should be the composition? How many members? Who should be the convener? And within what time period decide whether the research proposal follows ethical guidelines or not. Is it cleared or not? Journals and sponsors also ask for approval of the ethics committee. You send a paper for publication and the journal will ask you, tell us whether your research was cleared by the ethical review board or not. If not, they are not going to publish your paper. In our department also such an exercise was done only couple of years ago. 8 years ago, first time we were involved in Pathfinder's international research, which required clearance from an ethics committee. We ourselves, the NGO with which I worked, the NGO formed an ethical committee consisting of doctors, lawyers and researchers and cleared the proposal. Then only they entertained and gave us money. For the first time, one of my students who was working on palliative care required permission from ethics committee to collect data from terminally ill patients. Questions are raised today about safety, well-being, consent and anonymity of the subjects, respondents and cultures. The causes of ethical consciousness may be, I think, globalization of research, postmodernization of research and questioning of their own tools, techniques, theories by social scientists, means reflexivity, rights of the subject, consciousness of the rights of human subjects, respondents and marginal and vulnerable communities. Also sensitive topics such as HIV, AIDS, STD, RTI and with that sexuality researches, partnership, these things are sensitive topics and some of these topics are new. And for sensitive topics, we are supposed to follow certain ethical rules. We are not supposed to insult somebody, we are not supposed to embarrass somebody, we are not supposed to act in a manner which harms him in some way directly or indirectly. Also visual vocal methods, if you are using visual vocal methods, you need to take permission of your participant, your subjects, whether you can take a photograph or whether you can tape record the interview. Then seeking personal confidential information about individuals and communities, sometimes information on income itself may be confidential. You are not supposed to show data on income to say income tax authorities. You have collected these data in confidence, and these are not to be disclosed. Only mean income of the community can be shown, correlates of income can be shown, degree of inequality in income, aggregate level statistics can be shown, but income of individuals cannot be shown to income tax. If you look for literature on ethics, I think these 4 sources can be quite important. Research ethics for social scientists, this is published by Sage in 2006, then research ethics Routledge 2006, then ethics, a psychological approach, University of Nebraska 1996, and a practical guide to research ethics in the book Qualitative Methods, which was published by Sage in 2013. Philosophy of ethics itself is quite controversial and paradigmatic. There are different views of ethics: utilitarian rule ethics, utilitarian act ethics, relativistic or situational ethics, deontology or general rules, and virtues. In research, it is a mix of all the above. For various types of philosophies of ethics, you can see any ethics book. In social sciences, we have 2 views on ethics. In simple language, I am telling, there is a narrow view and there is a broader view. Narrow view means you should conduct your research in a manner that the research does no harm to environment, to people, to participants, volunteers, your subjects, and you do not intervene in the situation in the field in such a manner that it can ruin the interests of the community or nation or any linguistic group or cultural group. No harm. This ethics is defined in a negative manner, narrow view, no harm policy. There is a broader and positive view, which is promotion of public interest and justice. Will your research promote the public interest and justice in society? This is another way of looking at ethical aspects of research. So, research from looked at from this perspective, research is supposed to contribute to knowledge that is there, but research is also supposed to contribute to promotion of public interest and justice. We do research on poverty because poverty is to be removed in public interest. We do research on vulnerability, on marginality, on gender, on intersectionality, etc., because we want to create a more just society. The common unethical practices which you should be aware of are as follows. Plagiarism. Plagiarism means taking material from somewhere without acknowledging the person or the source. Means for others' work, other researchers' work, books, for other libraries, internet material, maybe TV interviews, maybe radio speeches, for efforts made by others in some way somewhere, you want to take personal credit, that is plagiarism. So, you simply copy something from somewhere. I read an interesting paper somewhere, some latest paper on gender issues or poverty or sociology of religion, and publish that paper without changing or maybe with small changes here and there in my own name, that is plagiarism. Interestingly, plagiarism includes self plagiarism also, which means if you have already published some research in the form of journals and books, you are not supposed to copy the same material or paragraphs or pages from the same publications in future research. I remember that we sent a paper for publication to an international journal, and we had already published another paper in another international journal based on the same data, and we thought that if we have to write a small paragraph of sampling etc., we can simply copy it from there. And the reviewers of the new journal came to know about it, and they said that this is not permitted. Even taking material from your own sources, from your own articles published in journals or your own articles, essays published in books, you are not supposed to copy, because you have already got credit for that. You cannot get credit for the same thing again and again. So, self plagiarism is also part of plagiarism, and it is unethical to take credit for someone else's work. That is the idea. Although, when you go into definition of plagiarism, implementation of rules of plagiarism, so many issues arise, so many issues. I have been involved in handling of some of these issues against some researchers, scholars, faculty members, and I know it is a complex issue. Then bias sample. If you take a sample in a biased manner, because that sample will produce desired characteristics or will help you draw inferences which you already have in mind, which you want to draw, maybe to satisfy your donors, that is again unethical. You are not to select biased sample, at least your sample may be biased for a variety of reasons, but your intention must be to design a sample method which will give you unbiased results. You are not on this side or that side of inferences. Covert research, hidden research is unethical, though I have seen some articles which say that in certain very specific situations covert research is the only alternative. Maybe we can make a list of such situations, but in general you are not to do research in a hidden manner. Then fudging data or lack of verifiability, not sharing your data with others, not maintaining your data for 3 to 5 years, not making it available to journals if they want you to produce data and they want to verify whether your findings are okay or not, that is unethical. Then unethical experimental field practices, as in Milgram experiment and Zimbardo-Gard study, from which the very debate on ethics started, that is unethical. Intrusion in life or culture, as HIV test under NFHS 3, only after taking voluntary consent of the people you can go for blood test of a random sample. You cannot force people to give you blood for test of HIV or anything, and lack of acknowledgement is unethical. If you have taken help from somebody in some form in conducting the research, that help has to be acknowledged. For details of ethics, you can look at SSPS, School of Social and Political Science, Levels of Research Ethics Assessment, Association of Social Anthropologists, British Sociological Association, Social Research Association, and Code of Federal Regulations. I give you an example of what ethical things are expected from you when you submit your article for publication in a journal. This is from Economic Journal of the Royal Economic Society. They expect the following things. and this is the link where you can find them. The work should be original, free of fabrication or falsification, not under submission to another academic publication. Some people sometimes send their paper for publication to 4 or 5 journals simultaneously, because they are not sure whether it will be published in a particular journal or not. That is unethical. It should be fully referenced. All relevant and related work researchers are aware of should be described. All co-authors share joint responsibility for the content and the manuscript. Maybe I have there is a paper written by, say, professor of electrical engineering, and that deals with some issues of electrical engineering, but I have helped them in statistics. So, I cannot say that I am not responsible for plagiarism or any other unethical thing that happened in the publication of the paper, because I was responsible only for some small statistical part, say only t-test. All the authors share joint responsibility for the content and the manuscript. So, this is a very serious clause and you must be aware of this. All significant contributors to the research are acknowledged. All sources of research funding are acknowledged. Any financial or other interests revealed and to become part of the published article in the case of acceptance. There are additional considerations from publication ethics of American Sociological Association. Sociologists make their data available after completion of the project or its major publication. The data cannot be hidden. You cannot say that I have not kept record of these things. Whatever data you have collected should be available for verification of the findings, and if somebody wants, some journal wants or some publisher wants or other researchers want, you are expected to share your data with them. Keep your data at least for 3 to 5 years. Except where proprietary agreements with employers, contractors or clients preclude such accessibility. If I am working for defense and defense research, Ministry of Defense does not want me to share data in the public, or Ministry of Defense want that the report should be confidential, then okay, then the report is confidential. They may even ask me to destroy the data or return the data to them, that is okay. Otherwise, for academic research, you cannot say that data will not be made available to others. And protect the confidentiality of the data or the anonymity of research participants. For example, raw field notes or detailed information from ethnographic interviews. British Psychological Society says that the code of ethics and conduct include respect for research participant, culture, gender, ethnicity, competence. I am not supposed to undertake research in those areas in which I am not competent, even if big grants are available. Responsibility towards participants, profession and dignity, including avoidance of any harm, and integrity, honesty, and avoiding any form of misconduct. Integrity clause includes refrain from engaging in any form of sexual or romantic relationship with persons to whom they are providing professional services or to whom they owe a continuing duty of care or with whom they have a relationship of trust. This might include a former patient, a student or trainee or a junior staff member. From Association of Social Anthropologists, ethics covers relations with and responsibilities towards research participants, sponsors, funders and employers, own and host governments, colleagues and the discipline, and the wider society. They include what? They include anticipating harms, avoiding undue intrusion, negotiating informed consent, rights to confidentiality and anonymity, fair return for assistance, participants' intellectual property rights, clarifying roles, rights and obligations, relations with gatekeepers, sharing research material, collaborative and team research and responsibilities towards research students and field assistants. Now, all the research institutions today are expected to set up ethical review board. Research institutes have to have ethical committees and the research proposals are required to be cleared by them. Sponsors too have such committees to examine proposals. Sometimes some other technical committees also examine the proposals for ethical clearance. Like our student who worked on palliative care, his proposal was to be cleared by the ethical review committee of our institute and also by the Association of Palliative Care in Kerala state, the state in which he conducted his field work. Example of NFHS 3, if you read NFHS 3 report, it says that its design was reviewed by IIPS board, International Institute of Population Sciences, which actually conducted the study, ethical review boards of funding agencies and technical committees formed separately. The university's ethics policy applies. Now, you may ask, to whom does ethical policy apply? All university staff and registered students who conduct or contribute to research activities involving human participants, personal data or human tissue, whether these take place within or outside university premises and facilities. All individuals who, although they are not members of the university, conduct or contribute to research activities involving human participants, personal data or human tissue that take place within university premises and facilities. So, people come for testing to our institute and work in our labs. Our labs, our institute is also liable to ethical rules even if others come and work in our lab or work on human participants. Our institute can refuse the permission to outside research agencies to work on our students or staff or professors if from the perspective of the institute it is going to do any harm to our people or culture, environment or anything of interest to the institute. Now, in India there is a new beginning. Ministry of Health and Family Welfare notification of 17th July 2012 number 573E2 Drugs and Cosmetics 4th Amendment Rules 2012. These provide the basic guidelines or rules or framework for ethics in research. It talks about mandatory committees and it talks about ICMR, IIPS, IITs, IIMs, that these institutions have started forming or they have already formed ethical review boards. More and more universities are also following, even state universities are now building ethical review committees and boards. Private donors and researchers, research organizations, international as well as national. I was member of one such organization of Delhi, Mamta Health, and actually to become member of the ethics review board of Mamta Health, I had to clear certain tests. I appeared in some examinations of a prestigious foreign university to which shows that I am capable of handling ethical issues. I cleared several exams, then only I was permitted to become member of the ethical board. Ethical concerns are so high, and in Delhi several organizations before submitting their research proposal to donors or sponsors get clearance from the ethical review board of Mamta Health. An ethics committee may comprise of medical, scientific and non-medical, non-scientific members whose responsibility is to verify the protection of rights, safety and well-being of human subjects involved in a clinical trial. Ethics committees may be named as review board, ethics review board or independent ethics committees set up for the purpose. Ethics committee made responsible for reviewing and approving the protocol, the suitability of the investigators, facilities, methods and adequacy of information to be used for obtaining and documenting informed consent of the study subjects and adequacy of confidential safeguard. In a study conducted by Population Council on gender based violence in 2013, I found the following points which show the ethical concerns, that questions to be posed in culturally appropriate and sensitive manner. You are not free, as a researcher you are not free to ask any question to your respondents. The question has to be posed in culturally appropriate and sensitive manner. Consent from female focus group discussion participants to approach husband whom you can study. Suppose you want to study young adults, maybe you have to take permission of the parents. So, ethical rules also suggest that in case you are working on minors, from whom should consent be taken. If you are working among patients who cannot give their consent or deaf or dumb people, from whom consent be taken? But consent, informed consent has to be taken. It is not simply consent, it is informed consent, that they know about what is going to happen in the process of research and they are willing to participate in the research. Then permission from guardians to interview children, I just mentioned 15 to 17, anonymous questionnaires and transcripts, names of respondents. These days you will see that on many questionnaires, when one of the first fields is name, we write in parenthesis optional. So, you cannot force your respondent to reveal identity such as name. For Indian students, I would say that the guidelines which they can see for how to create or what ethical concern they should be concerned about. Indian Council of Medical Research ICMR, ethical guidelines for biomedical research on human participants, ethical guidelines for social science research in health by National Committee for Ethics in Social Science Research in Health NCESSRH, and Center for Inquiry into Health and Allied Themes, Mumbai, Pune. This NCESSRH provides guidelines for all, that is researchers, peer reviewers, referees, editors, publishers and funders and sponsors. Not only researchers, even funders and sponsors, editors, referees, reviewers are to follow certain ethical principles. From NCESSRH document, I am saying that while ethical guidelines are not administrative rules and the conscience of researchers may be the best guide for ensuring that ethics are followed in research, and for resolving ethical dilemmas, conduct of research cannot be completely left to the discretion of individual researchers. And institutions and researchers involved in social science research in health should create appropriate institutional or research project based mechanism to ensure ethical conduct of research and implementation of guidelines. Ethical issues are more than legal, they are moral. Actually, they belong to moral. Being free from unethical practices as declared by committees and not involving in plagiarism is one thing, but being true to ethics of research is another thing. They are more than legal. They are not only they not only expect you to conform to laws of society, to the constitution, but they also expect you something more, that is moral. The International Sociological Association's Code of Ethics says the code of ethics is not exhaustive, all embracing and rigid. The fact that a particular conduct is not addressed specifically by the code of ethics. Code of ethics is like your criminal justice code, criminal law, but it does not mean that the conduct is necessarily either ethical or unethical. Ethics is more than what is given in statutes or law books or rules for central government employees or rules of your organization. Moral is, remember that what I said about narrow view and broad view. It should not harm anybody and it should contribute positively to the progress of society, that is ethics. Values, they are connected with values, ethics are issues of values actually, and the ethical standards cannot be forced by any committee, organization or rules, we know it very well. So, a general value atmosphere has to be created in your research organization, teaching organization, academic organization. A value environment has to be created, so that nobody has actually to see the rule book and believes and practices high moral standards or ethical standards in research. They should be inbuilt in the research practices and value system of the researchers. Senior researchers can demonstrate these ethical standards by following them in their own research. To follow values is not necessarily to follow a rational strategy or rules. Sometimes you have to sacrifice some interest, your interest in order to follow values or in order to identify value based research topic and follow value based methodologies. Choice of values is a moral choice. So, again to repeat, the choice of values is a moral choice, it goes beyond what is written in your rule books. And moral choice defines researcher self, it should become a matter of self definition, self esteem. You do not need ethical approval, however, for certain things which are considered to be part of research. If the project does not come under the regulatory definition of research, if your research project does not come under the regulatory definition of research. So, when ethics committees or boards for research are formed, everything is defined, research is defined, rules are defined, composition is defined, implications, and what will you do in case of violation of ethical rules, that is also defined. Though sometimes because ethics is more than rules, it is moral. So, sometimes there may be issues for which there are no guidelines yet. Guidelines have to be continuously evolved. For studies based on observations, if your study is based on observations only with no need to talk to people or work with people or make any intervention, then the ethical rules may not apply to you. When people do not, when I say ethical rules do not apply to you, it does not mean that there is no morality of that research based on observations. What it means is that the rules of the rule book need not be followed. You can have more flexibility if your research is based on observations. When people do not get identified, and in program evaluation studies, which are often sponsored by various ministries, and assessment and pedagogical exercises, and analysis of tax or secondary data. Actually, I was looking for some research situations where clearance from ethical review board is not required. It is only in that sense that these bullets need to be read. Otherwise, any action on the part of researcher, academic, non-academic, relationships, sources of funding, public, everything is liable to moral scrutiny. Ethical rules, prior consent and confidentiality are not unproblematic. Sometimes there are political and bureaucratic intrusions, sometimes logistically it is difficult to get prior consent, sometimes in multi-centering studies you find it difficult to get multiple approvals timely, sometimes revealing the purpose may affect the findings. If you tell your participants, your researcher respondents that this is the purpose of research, that might sometime affect your findings. Is whistleblowing unethical? I do not know. When you observe illegal or dangerous behavior in the research community or among your friends or researchers, your contemporaries, your colleagues. Informed consent should preferably be obtained in writing, and here lies the primacy of the individual. The purpose is to conduct research openly and without deception. In case of participatory research, the consent is an ongoing and continuous process. In longitudinal study, you cannot say that I had taken informed consent 5 years ago and therefore, today I can do this experiment. It is a continuous process. For informed consent to be valid, it involves the principles of disclosure, understanding, the participant must understand what research is about, voluntariness, competence, consent, and verbal and written briefing of the participants should include the following: purpose of research, identity of the researchers, identity of others associated with the research, why selected. People often ask, why am I selected? If you tell that the respondents have been selected in multi-stage stratified random sampling, they may not understand. You have to tell them why selected, harms and benefits of giving data, privacy, anonymity and confidentiality have to be maintained. Then future use of information, what will you do with this information? And you must give your respondents the right to participate or not to participate in the study and to withdraw from the study at any time, at any stage in the process of research. Participants should also be informed about their right to decline participation outright or to withdraw consent given at any stage of the research. You cannot say that because the interview has already started, so researcher cannot or the participant, the subject cannot say no to answering your questions in between, or the subject cannot say that no, I am not interested in continuing with this study after the interview has started. Undesirable consequences, penalty and so on. The participants should be informed that they are free to object to and refuse to allow the use of data gathering devices such as camera, tape recorder, etc., etc. Right to get help. The researcher should try and get all the possible help that the participants might require. An example of informed consent, in the beginning the first page of your questionnaire or structured interview schedule must look like this. Namaste, my name is this and I am working for this organization. We are conducting a survey about this thing. We would very much appreciate your participation. Several different related topics will be discussed. The information will help the government to or someone else to better plan. The survey usually takes between 30 and 60 minutes to complete. Whatever information you will provide will be kept strictly confidential and will not be shown to other person. This is your commitment. So, you have to maintain this commitment. Participation in this survey is voluntary and if you choose not to participate, you may withdraw. So, right in the beginning you are telling this, and at this point of time do you intend to have any further clarification? If they have some clarification, if they want to ask some question before they give you data, you have to answer them. Answer any question and try to address the respondent's concern. This is your moral duty, ethical responsibility. In case you need more information about the survey, you may contact the person listed on the card. Give your mobile number, your email address, name of your organization, here name of your organization will appear, and then ask, may I begin the interview, and preferably take the signature of the respondent here. So, because now if respondent has signed your paper, then you can say that informed consent was taken. You can show that yes, you followed the ethical principles. Then recommendations for researchers, you can look at them, certain obvious things which you should ensure and which you should avoid, like codify all the procedures. You should avoid insisting on proving hypothesis. There are some scholars or some professors who insist that the researcher, their students should continue experiment till the hypothesis is proved. No, objectivity or ethics demand that whatever is the case, whether your hypothesis is accepted or not accepted, accepted or rejected, mention that in your research and interpret accordingly. Be precise and honest, avoid plagiarism. So, you can see some of these points hurriedly. Again repeating that conduct of research cannot be completely left to the discretion of individual researchers, and therefore, ethical issues arise. Thank you.